Welcome to the channel Error Coins Hub. What if I told you that a simple penny from 1957 could be worth more than most people will earn in their entire lifetime? More than luxury mansions, exotic cars, and retirement funds combined. Would you believe me? Most people see pennies as worthless, something they toss into jars or leave on the sidewalk. But the 1957 D-Wheat penny isn't just any penny. It's a coin that has turned ordinary people into millionaires overnight. And here's the thing, you might have one sitting in your collection right now without even knowing it. This isn't some fairy tale or exaggerated story. This is real, documented, and absolutely mind-blowing, because the 1957 D-Wheat penny has sold for a staggering $11 million at auction. Yes, you heard that right. $11 million for a coin that was originally worth just 1 cent. Now, before you rush to check your old penny collections, let me tell you exactly why this particular coin is so valuable, what makes it different from the billions of other pennies minted that year, and most importantly, how you can identify if you have one of these treasures hiding in plain sight. But first, I need you to stick with me until the very end of this video, because after we uncover the secrets of this incredible 1957 D-Wheat penny, I'm going to reveal another coin that's even more shocking. A coin from 1944 that carries a value so astronomical it will make your jaw drop. But I won't spoil it just yet. So make sure you stay tuned, hit that subscribe button, and let's dive deep into the fascinating world of the 1957 D-Wheat penny worth $11 million. The year 1957 was a significant time in American history. The country was thriving in the post-war boom. Families were buying homes, cars were becoming more affordable, and the Denver Mint was working overtime producing millions upon millions of pennies to keep up with the growing economy. In fact, the Denver Mint struck over 1,051,342,000 wheat pennies in 1957 alone. That's more than 1 billion coins flooding into circulation, and at first glance you'd think that with such a massive production number, these coins would be common, worthless, and easily dismissed. But here's where the story takes an absolutely shocking turn. Among those billion-plus pennies, a tiny fraction were struck with errors, mistakes, and anomalies that would later become the holy grail for coin collectors around the world. And the most valuable of these errors is what we call the 1957 DDDO, or Double Die Obverse error. Now let me explain what that means in simple terms, because this is crucial to understanding why this coin is worth millions. A double die obverse occurs when the die used to stamp the coin's design onto the blank planchet is misaligned during the hubbing process. This creates a doubling effect on the coin's obverse side, which is the front side featuring Abraham Lincoln's profile. And when I say doubling, I don't mean a slight blur or a tiny imperfection. I mean a dramatic, visible doubling of the letters, numbers, and design elements that can be seen with the naked eye. On the 1957 D-Wheat penny DDO, you'll notice the doubling most prominently on the words "I in God we trust" and "Liberty." The letters appear almost ghostly, with a shadow or echo effect that makes them look like they've been stamped twice. And this isn't something that happens often. In fact, it's extremely rare, because the US Mint has strict quality control measures to catch these errors before the coins enter circulation. But somehow, someway, a small number of these double die obverse pennies slipped through the cracks and made it into people's pockets, purses, and piggy banks. Now here's where things get even more interesting. Not all 1957 D-Wheat pennies are valuable. In fact, a regular 1957 D-Wheat penny in average condition is worth maybe 10 to 50 cents, nothing special. But if you have one with the DDO error, especially in high-grade, pristine, uncirculated condition, you're looking at a coin that could sell for tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, or in the case of the finest known example, $11 million. You might be wondering, how did one penny reach such an insane valuation? Well, it all comes down to rarity, condition, and demand. The finest known 1957 DDO wheat penny was graded MS68 red by PCGS, which means it's in near-perfect condition with full red luster, no spots, no corrosion, and virtually no signs of wear. Coins at this grade level are incredibly rare, especially for pennies that circulated during the 1950s, and when you combine a high-grade coin with a dramatic, desirable error, like the Double Die Obverse, you create the perfect storm for record-breaking auction prices. But wait, there's more to this story because the 1957 D wheat penny isn't just famous for the DDO error. There are also other varieties and anomalies that collectors obsess over, including repunched mint marks, die cracks, off-center strikes, and even a few rare instances of 1957 D pennies struck on the wrong planchet. Imagine a penny that was supposed to be struck on a copper planchet but instead was struck on a silver dime planchet or a foreign coin blank. These are called wrong planchet errors, and they are extremely rare and valuable. One such error sold at auction for over $200,000, and while that might not sound as impressive as 11 million, it's still a life-changing amount of money for a coin that most people would spend without a second thought. And here's the kicker, these errors are still being discovered today. People are finding valuable 1957 D wheat pennies in old collections, estate sales, and even in circulation. So if you have a stash of old pennies sitting in your attic, basement, or safe deposit box, now is the time to go through them carefully. Now let me give you some tips on how to identify a valuable 1957 D wheat penny. First, grab a magnifying glass or a jeweler's loupe because you'll need to inspect the coin up close. Look at the obverse side, specifically the words "In God We Trust" and "Liberty." If you see any doubling, shadowing, or echo effects on these letters, you might have a DDO error. Next, check the mint mark, the little D, under the date on the obverse side. If the mint mark looks repunched or doubled, that's another valuable variety. Also, pay attention to the overall condition of the coin. Is it shiny and red, or has it turned brown and worn down? The redder and more lustrous the coin, the higher the grade and the more valuable it will be. And finally, if you think you have a valuable 1957 D wheat penny, do not clean it. Cleaning a coin can drastically reduce its value because collectors prefer coins in their original, natural state. Once you've identified a potential treasure, the next step is to get it professionally graded by a reputable service like PCGS or NGC. These companies will authenticate your coin, assign it a grade, and encapsulate it in a protective holder. This not only preserves the coin but also gives it credibility and marketability if you decide to sell it. And trust me, if you have a high-grade 1957 DDO wheat penny, you won't have any trouble finding buyers. Collectors and investors are constantly on the hunt for these rare gems, and they're willing to pay top dollar to add them to their collections. But here's something most people don't realize. The coin market is unpredictable and constantly evolving. What might be worth a few $1,000s today could be worth tens of thousands tomorrow, especially as more collectors enter the market and fewer high-grade examples remain available. This is why it's so important to educate yourself, stay informed, and keep searching through your old coins. You never know when you might stumble upon a fortune hiding in plain sight. And speaking of fortunes, remember how I mentioned earlier that there's another coin coming up that's even more incredible? Well, I wasn't kidding. The next coin we're going to talk about is a 1944 D wheat penny. And when you hear what this coin is worth and why it's so valuable, you're going to understand why rare coin collecting has become one of the most exciting and lucrative hobbies in the world. But I don't want to give away too much just yet. So make sure you keep watching, keep listening, and keep your eyes peeled because this next coin is going to blow your mind. The story of the 1957 D wheat penny is a reminder that sometimes the most valuable things in life are the ones we overlook, the ones we take for granted, and the ones we almost throw away. So before you dismiss that pile of old pennies or that jar of loose change sitting on your dresser, take a closer look, do your research, and who knows, you might just discover that you're sitting on a fortune worth $11 million. This is the magic of coin collecting, the thrill of the hunt, the excitement of discovery, and the possibility that at any moment, you could uncover a piece of history that changes your life forever. So stay curious, stay vigilant, and most importantly, Stay with me because the journey is just getting started, and trust me, what comes next is going to be absolutely unforgettable. Last, the 1944 D wheat penny. If you thought the story of the 1957 D wheat penny was incredible, prepare yourself because what I'm about to reveal will leave you absolutely speechless. The 1944 D wheat penny holds a value of $8 million. Yes, you heard that correctly, $8 million for a single penny, and the reason behind this astronomical price tag is one of the most fascinating and bizarre stories in the history of American coinage. So buckle up, because we're about to dive deep into a tale of wartime necessity, minting errors, and a coin so rare that only a handful of people in the world have ever had the privilege of holding one. To understand why the 1944 D wheat penny is worth $8 million, we need to travel back in time to the early 1940s when the United States was fully engaged in World War II. The war effort required massive amounts of copper for ammunition, shell casings, and military equipment, and the U.S. Mint was faced with a serious dilemma. How could they continue producing pennies when the nation desperately needed every ounce of copper for the war? The solution was both ingenious and controversial. In 1943, the U.S. Mint made the decision to produce pennies using zinc-coated steel instead of the traditional copper composition. This is why 1943 pennies have that distinctive silver appearance and why they're magnetic, unlike any other penny before or since. The steel pennies were meant to be a temporary solution, and once the war ended and copper became available again, the Mint planned to return to the standard copper composition for pennies. In 1944, that's exactly what happened. The Mint resumed striking pennies using recycled shell casings and copper recovered from various wartime sources, and millions upon millions of 1944 wheat pennies were produced in copper at the Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco mints. In fact, the Denver Mint alone produced over 430 million copper pennies in 1944, so you'd think that 1944 D pennies would be common, easy to find, and worth almost nothing, right? Wrong. Here's where the story takes a shocking twist. During the transition from steel planchets in 1943 back to copper planchets in 1944, a few steel planchets from 1943 got mixed in with the copper planchets at the Denver Mint, and when these leftover steel planchets were struck with the 1944 D dies, they created one of the rarest and most valuable error coins in existence, the 1944 D steel wheat penny. Think about it, this is a coin that was never supposed to exist, a mistake, an anomaly, a ghost from the previous year that somehow slipped through the production process and ended up in circulation. And because it was struck on the wrong planchet material, it stands out like a sore thumb among the billions of copper pennies from 1944. Now let me paint a picture for you. Imagine you're a coin collector in the 1950s or 1960s. You're going through rolls of wheat pennies, sorting them by date and mint mark, and suddenly you come across a 1944 penny that looks silver instead of copper. Your heart starts racing, your hands start shaking, because you know, deep down, that you've just found something incredibly rare, something that could change your life forever. The 1944 D steel wheat penny is so rare that only a small handful of confirmed examples are known to exist. Some experts estimate that there are fewer than 10 genuine specimens in the world, and each one that surfaces at auction creates a bidding frenzy among collectors and investors who are desperate to own a piece of this incredible numismatic history. The most famous example of a 1944 D steel wheat penny sold at auction for $8 million, and the buyer, whoever they are, now owns one of the most coveted coins in the entire world. But here's the thing. There are still 1944 D steel pennies out there waiting to be discovered, hiding in old collections, tucked away in forgotten jars, or sitting in drawers where they've been overlooked for decades. And every time one of these coins is found, it makes headlines, it shocks the coin collecting community, and it reminds us all that incredible treasures are still out there, just waiting to be uncovered. Now, I know what you're thinking, how can I tell if I have a 1944 D steel wheat penny? Well, it's actually quite simple. First, look at the color. If your 1944 D penny is silver or gray instead of the typical copper, brown, or red, that's your first clue. Next, grab a magnet. If the penny is attracted to the magnet, then it's made of steel, not copper, because copper is not magnetic. And if your 1944 D penny is both silver in color and magnetic, congratulations, you might just have a coin worth $8 million. But before you get too excited, I need to warn you, there are fakes and counterfeits out there. Some dishonest people have tried to alter 1943 steel pennies by filing off the 3 and re-engraving a 4 to make them look like 1944 steel pennies. So if you think you have a genuine 1944 D steel wheat penny, it's absolutely critical that you get it authenticated by a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC. They have the expertise, the equipment, and the experience to determine whether your coin is genuine or fake. And if it turns out to be real, well, your life is about to change in ways you never imagined. The story of the 1944 D steel wheat penny is a perfect example of how errors, mistakes, and anomalies can create value in the world of coin collecting. It's a reminder that sometimes the most valuable things are the ones that were never supposed to exist in the first place. And it's a testament to the enduring fascination that people have with rare coins, history, and the thrill of discovery. But the 1944 D steel penny isn't the only valuable variety from 1944. There's also the 1944 D copper penny with errors like double die obverse, repunched mint marks, off-center strikes, and die cracks, and while these errors might not be worth $8 million, they can still fetch hundreds or even thousands of dollars depending on the severity of the error and the condition of the coin. So even if you don't have a steel penny, it's still worth going through your 1944 D wheat pennies carefully to see if any of them have desirable errors or varieties. Let me share with you a real-life story that perfectly illustrates the magic of finding a rare coin. Back in 2019, a man in New England was going through his late father's coin collection, just sorting through rolls and jars of old pennies, when he came across a 1944 penny that looked different. It was silver instead of copper, and when he tested it with a magnet, it stuck. He did some research online, contacted a coin dealer, and eventually had the coin authenticated by PCGS. And you know what? It turned out to be a genuine 1944 steel wheat penny. Not the D mint mark variety, but still incredibly rare and valuable. And he ended up selling it at auction for over $200,000. Stories like this happen all the time in the world of coin collecting. People find valuable coins in the most unexpected places, in piggy banks, in old wallets, in drawers, in attics, and even in circulation. And the beauty of it is that you don't need to be a professional numismatist or a wealthy investor to find these treasures. All you need is a keen eye, a little bit of knowledge, and the willingness to look closely at your coins instead of just spending them without a second thought. The 1944 D wheat penny, whether it's the ultra-rare steel version worth $8 million or a copper version with a valuable error, represents a golden opportunity for anyone who takes the time to search through their old pennies. And with millions of 1944 D pennies still out there in collections, estates, and circulation, the odds of finding a valuable one are better than you might think. So don't give up, don't get discouraged, and most importantly, don't throw away those old pennies without checking them first. Now, as we wrap up this incredible journey through the world of rare wheat pennies, I want you to remember a few key things. First, always inspect your old coins carefully. Use a magnifying glass, check for errors, and pay attention to details like color, mint marks, and condition. Second, if you think you have a valuable coin, get it professionally graded and authenticated. This will not only protect your investment but also give you peace of mind and credibility if you decide to sell. Third, never clean your coins. Cleaning can destroy their value and make them virtually worthless to collectors. And finally, stay curious, keep learning, and never underestimate the power of a single penny to change your life forever. The 1957 D wheat penny worth $11 million and the 1944 D wheat penny worth $8 million are not just coins. They're symbols of hope, opportunity, and the incredible potential that exists in the world of rare coin collecting. They're reminders that sometimes the most valuable things in life are the ones we overlook, the ones we take for granted, and the ones we almost throw away. So before you dismiss that jar of pennies or that old coin collection, take a closer look, do your homework, and who knows, you might just discover that you're holding a fortune in the palm of your hand. Thank you so much for sticking with me through this amazing exploration of two of the most valuable wheat pennies in the world. I hope you've learned something new. I hope you're inspired to check your own coins, and I hope you'll continue to follow Error Coins Hub for more incredible stories, tips, and secrets from the fascinating world of rare coins. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. And if you have any questions, stories, or discoveries of your own, drop them in the comments below because I love hearing from fellow coin enthusiasts. And remember, the next $1 million coin could be sitting in your pocket right now. So keep your eyes open, stay vigilant, and happy hunting.